So this should be a lot of fun. We're doing a review of Ghostlore today. And this is actually a more formal edit, so the developer reached out after my quick edit review and was very kind and asked for a little bit of a deeper dive into the narrative. They also have been very, very kind and answered some of the questions that I have about, their goals, because I think anytime I want to do a more thorough edit, I think having a very clear sense of what the writer is trying to accomplish can absolutely help the edit flow a lot better and hopefully achieve more of that writer's goals than otherwise maybe is likely. Let me just check a few things here and we will get started. All right. Um, all right. Okie doke. Let's get down to business. I'm just kind of organizing. I have a few different documents from the developer, which is really, really helpful. So I have their monster list, which each kind of has their own mythology. So I think one of the developers' big goals was to incorporate, the mythology of kind of their culture into this game. So the thing that I'll be focusing on is saying how do we better represent that? How do we better make that expressible and accessible? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do a quick. I've already read through this, so a lot of these notes that I'm going to initially deliver won't be surprising for me, at least. I've already kind of read through this briefly, but what I'll do kind of in the second half of stream is I'll talk through some of my recommendations and some of the things that I think the game designers might want to think about as they go into future revisions. I'm reading over, so I'm going to go over their questions real quick. The goal and the theme. I don't want to spoil it for those of you who are watching, but essentially, it follows the theme of the Red Hill story. And it's actually quite culturally relevant, I think, right now. The way certain governments are behaving, I think this is a very relevant story, about bringing evil into the world to preserve power. So I think this will be, an interesting edit, and I think a very timely one. All lore will be kept. So the biggest goal is to keep the lore, keep the world intact. So we're going to definitely try to do that and make sure that we're not altering too many of the gameplay elements, and also not adding too much work for these poor developers, right? Because I've built some of my own games, and I know that every little thing costs time, and time is a very valuable resource. Most important thing to know about the lore, the physical and spiritual. So we want to make sure that those two worlds are well defined. What's the most important thing to know about the characters? The wise master, mad scientist, power hungry bureaucrat. So we want to really lean into the archetypes with the characters. So that's one of the writer's goals. So a lot of like subtlety and nuance, we're going to lean against that a little bit and say, hey, if the writer and the developer's goals is to say, hey, we really want this archetypal approach, we're going to try to honor that and respect it, right? What's the most important thing to know about the plot? Easy to follow. And then a balance of tone, 60% serious, 40% comedy. So that's actually kind of nice. That opens up a lot of opportunity for self-referential, for some silly humor. And I do think there's a ton of opportunity there. So was really glad to get that goal from the engineer. Ghostlore, Andrew, what's up? Good to see you. How's it going? I'm sorry for doing this while you're at work, but I hope it's helpful nonetheless. And I'll have the VOD up for you as well, so you'll have a reference point. And so the first half of this, I'm just going to be going through top to bottom, reviewing the text, the document, kind of giving my high-level recommendations, and then probably the second half, or like the last third, I'll be giving a set of recommendations saying, hey, these are things that if it was my if it was my IP, if I was driving these are the things that I would look to change. All right. So the intro screen. For many years, the master ghost hunter has defended the island of Seaport from the Mogwai. The Mogwai. I mean, I'm from Texas, so my pronunciation is suspect. Also, creatures from the spirit world. So we are accomplishing some of our goals here in terms of the setup, right? We're putting the characters into their archetypes, and we're setting up the fact that there's a duality of worlds. One thing I would think about, um, I would definitely try to dramatize this a little more. So raw exposition's always tough. Um, so like even if it was like a little miniature scene of the main character waking up in their master, in their school or whatever, because they're obviously master apprentice, they have to have somewhere to practice in their, studio, and saying, "Hey, what's going on? Where's Master?" And then maybe his spirit alert bell is going off, and it's like the spirit world is getting close. I need to go out there and help him. This is nice because it explains it. It's very very clear. This is actually one of the one in. Sorry, my audio likes to turn off randomly. This is one of the intros I don't think you have to honestly change or turn off, but I do think that there is opportunity here. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and add a comment. Let's see, I don't use LibreOffice too often, but I know the basics of it. So for this picture, I'll say, can we give some scene? So anytime, this is like the first moment of your game, you really want to hook here, and one of the best ways to hook any reader, player or otherwise in, is through using scenic language. So saying, I woke up, master, or like, even if you're doing the second person, because I see you're referencing the you here, you wake up in your, in your studio. This is a bad example, but whatever, the dojo. That's the word I'm looking at. You wake up in your dojo. The master is gone. The spirit bells are ringing. The spirit world is getting close. What's going on? That type of dramatic language can help. And honestly, when I played through the intro of the game, that transition was something I think, because we pretty much cut from this straight to killing monsters, which I actually really love. But I think that there can be a little bit more dramaticism in this, and you can also still communicate the main points, which is, I need to know my master's gone. I need to know that Mogwai are these spirit creatures that are invading our world from the spirit world. Like this hunt has gone awry. Like that's not necessarily adding complexity. It's just giving some light context, and this fate now rests upon you. Because of the context, you've already told me this, but the fact that my master's gone, he is captured. Essentially, that's a little bit of verbal doubling where it's saying, hey, I'm already pretty clued into this situation. This is just rehashing some things I'm already relatively aware of. So I would do, this would be a scenic intro, would be my recommendation here. And I think in executing this, I mean, the goal there would be to still introduce everything you're introducing, but let it stand alone a little bit on its own. Scenic intro, let it stand alone and be less expository. Okay, so in terms of the game flow, the next thing that happens is we are off to rescue the Master Ghost Hunter, which is awesome. And like these mission objectives, you really be okay with treating them like your story. And then we get to the boss arena here. I do wonder if we could have, and I'm going to talk about this later in my high-level notes, and I'll put all this stuff at the end. So I'll go a little faster maybe if it's taking too long. But I would say that having some discoverable items with little bits of narrative, even like one sentence, could be really interesting, right? Because I'm at my dojo, I'm by my house. Maybe I find some stuff about myself, about Nadir, who is the another playable or another NPC, And those types of things are just little notes about the world. Because one of the things is if you're going really, really spare in terms of your narrative, you can add a lot of depth by having lots of different voices and lots of different styles of voices speaking at the same time. It's kind of a weird principle. It's very very common in literary fiction, but it's called polyphony, which means a bunch of different voices speaking, right? And so the world can feel a lot deeper if I'm picking up notes about someone's grocery list while I'm killing monsters. And these types of things are a little silly, I guess, but they can add a lot of depth to the world. So between this, I would say, and I'm going to turn my review on here. Record. Consider adding some, discoverable notes into the world with little snippets from characters or hints at the plot resolution. So I'll add some of my overall notes on top. And where's bullets? Boodly-doo. I will say LibreOffice is pretty amazing. So one of the first overall notes is I'll say like rework intros. Range them from scenes to notes that would be in context. The next thing will be add some discoverable notes that make sense given the area we're in. And so some of this exposition that's getting communicated here could get communicated in the scene along with gameplay, and it's not slowing down your player, right? If they pick up the notes, it's a cool surprise for them. If they read it, great. If they ignore it, totally fine. They can sell it for $1 at the, sell it for $1 at the at Seaport, right? And clear it out of their inventory, or it could just be another screen overlay. Player after reaches boss area, defeat Mogwai. Okay, great. Mogwai summoner boss. Remove Mogwai circle, a magical prison. So again, this, I do know that this magical prison concept comes in later, right? Because I've read through this already. So to some degree, this design needs to be somewhat significant here. I do like that later in the story you call it back and say, hey, you, the main character, getting captured in the same trap as your master. But not really clear exactly what this entails. So I'm going to say in the dialogue with the master, can we get more, get one reference to this, capture, prison circle? Yeah. A quick suggestion, but something to think about. Especially if you want a really tight set of callbacks and references. Let me also pull this up. Okay. So the next thing is the mission objective, which is talk to the lead ghost hunter. So I think this is still, this is still in the present scene. So we talk to him and he says thank you, right? And this is something I talked about in my video review, so I don't have to rehash it. But this is a very expected response, right? If I save someone's life and they say thank you, that's very, very expected. And I think one of the ways you can generate drama is mixing that up, right? And it's funny because let's say I save someone's life and they said, "What is wrong with you?" That's interesting. You want to know why. And even in movies like The Incredibles, they use this to their advantage, right? Where the Incredibles lose their jobs because they saved someone's life who was trying to harm themselves, and that person was angry and sued because he was trying to harm himself. So obviously that's a bit of an extreme example, but you get right? So we're at the very beginning of your story. This is the most critical point, at least for the narrative side, to hook the player in. You've already introduced gameplay. You've introduced these really cool mechanics and systems. I think that'll engage a lot of players. But if you want them to care about your story, your hooks do need to matter. And so the most important things generally in writing are the first line a character says, the first sentence in a chapter, the first line of your book. These types of things are extremely critical. So as a writer, I would really consider reworking first line and dialogue um, to something a little unexpected. I'm fortunate to have you as an apprentice. Again, it's good because you're giving me facts, right? Like, hey, I'm his apprentice. But I did get that fact up here, and the fact that we're calling him master is pretty indicative of that. So, I mean, honestly, part of writing is trusting in the tools you've already brought to bear, right? You've done a lot of awesome work in bringing this world to life, bringing these characters to life, and some of the goal as a writer is just to really lean into that and say, I'm going to assume the reader has it understood at this point. I probably don't need to tell them again. And there will be some readers that miss it, but those that don't will probably have a more enjoyable experience, right? Um, um, can we use this space? So this homing compass moment I think is important. I think in the revisions as we go forward, I think this is something you're going to want to keep. You need to give them the homing compass. I would wonder about the reason where it's just like, here, take my homing compass. I've exhausted myself in battle. Um, I wonder if this can be more of a passing of the torch. Like, oh, I'm too tired to use it. There probably can be some more depth here. Can we, and maybe he even says something like, "Oh, I guess you're the master," something like that. Where we actually see like this compass is, hey, you're the ghost hunter of this area now, and you're in charge. The only other thing is that the difficulty, I think the age as an excuse is interesting, but I also think it's a missed opportunity. So I do think here, and this will go to later notes, so I'm kind of front loading this a little bit, but I do think hinting at the fact that um, that maybe something's changed, right? Like, so one of the questions you ask for every story is why now? Why now? Is it because Nadir? I mean, we know that Nadir, and if I'm pronouncing that wrong, you can let me know, produced her invention and did some building, right? But for this ghost hunter passing the torch, why now? Have the monsters become so much stronger? Has his skill run out and he's just like, hey, you're my student with the most potential. You need to handle this. Um, I do want to get a sense of what has changed in the world that is making this master ghost hunter so afraid that he has to just go ahead and pass the torch. Why now? What's happening to make this event happen in the present world? And not just that, he's getting older. Okay. I know I'm belaboring some of these early parts, and that's totally intentional. I will move on as things go forward. The only other last thing is like, what is the goal behind, or I'm curious, what's the goal behind Ghost Hunter? Is that, an like a why are they all called ghost hunters? Like, I mean, why wouldn't they be Mogwai hunters, right? Because they're not hunting. I mean, I know Mogwai and ghosts are pretty much the same thing in a lot of ways, and I was doing some research on these monsters, and I was like, oh man, Joseph Campbell knows his stuff. A lot of these archetypes between different things, it's an occupation. Got it. Okay, cool. All right, use the humming compass to bring us back home. Repeatable. That makes sense. And then we have this pop-up. So this pop-up system could be used to bring in some in-world context. And I've worked with Unity quite a bit, so I kind of know some of the, it's like if you already got the prefab built, you don't have to build it again. Anyways, but yeah, to some degree, yeah, you already have tutorial home encompass prefabs right here. Speak of the devil. Um, but yeah, that's an option, right? To use some of these systems you already have to add a little bit more depth if the players are looking for it. Because at least in my playthrough, I was scouring the map, right? I'm looking for everything. But one of the things that I found some wheat. I found a few extra items, but I didn't find something that materially taught me more about the world, and that could be an interesting opportunity as well. Okay, so we go to Seaport. Um, I'm going to go a little faster through some of these notes so I can spend more time on my recommendations. But overall, this loading screen I want to spend some time on because one, I think it communicates a lot, right? It communicates facts, it communicates things about the world, which I think is really valuable and you want to keep. I need to know a little bit about Seaport to care about Seaport, right? And especially later in the story, I mean, spoilers. If you want a spoiler-free stream, this is not the right place to be. But especially because this is later in the story, Seaport gets under duress. It gets attacked. The boundaries between the worlds start separating, and the Mogwai and the Spirit World start coming in and opening portals and taking over Seaport, right? So I do need to have some factual knowledge to care, but I think you can do something interesting here because every time we return to Seaport, we get this exact same message. So some of my thinking here is, how do we add more color to this language, still communicate the same things, right? Like I need to know there's a lot of people here, that adds stakes. I need to know that it's like, a busy port, these types of things. But I can show some of this stuff, right? Instead of telling the reader these things. So for example, instead of being just a blurb, this could be a tourism bulletin. You don't even have to change the art. You could just do like, hey, tourism bulletin Seaport. And I can just give an example. This is going to be very fast, and if I go through and actually do these revisions, if you all want all these changes, um, 3/3/87, whatever, you know, I'm trying to think of a good tourism bulletin intro. No problem. Amazing dining. We got it. And make it like marketing. Glimmering lights, no problem. Like glimmering lights is kind of city. Top tier entertainment. Amazing dining. We got it. A seaport that sees the world. Blah 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 blah. And then this can evolve, right? So as I return to Seaport, there can be different tourism bulletins, and you can add some of your humor, right? And I think you did do a really good job bringing in humor, and I want to keep a lot of that. But for example, you could do something like only minor hauntings, hauntings. If you experience any issues with supernatural boundaries, please reach out to your nearest city elder. There's no need to panic. Yeah. So I think that could be one of the approaches, and I think all these should be different, right? Like for Seaport, because it's kind of glitz and glamour, maybe they're all a variation on tourism. Yeah, go to the visitor center for refunds. Exactly. I think you're right on track, Andrew. So I think those can evolve, and that's something I'm more than happy if you say, hey Jeff, I like all these ideas, let's move forward, and I can do like a draft for you all. I think this is pretty short, honestly, so it's not super hard. But Ledna, welcome, and good to see you. But that would be something to think about in these, is saying, hey, can I get these escalating bulletins to be more complicated, to have some humor in them, and maybe even a little foreshadowing, right? Like where I don't have to rely only on my interactions with the elder to know that he's someone suspicious. I need to I can use some of these other voices, right? Because a tourism bulletin is another voice. It's the sound of an advertiser. It's an advertiser's voice. The ghost hunter's, understanding of the situation is his voice. If you start bringing in lore, and I see in some of the later intros, which I think you should keep, these little miniature lore kind of short vignettes. That's all stuff you should keep. And one of the ways to deepen this world without adding a lot of content is giving this information from a voiced perspective. Exactly, right. Like you can give speeches. You can even use, if you don't have, I mean, I don't honestly know what your development schedule is and how much time you have, but you can even swap out one of these intros because we returned to the Seaport intro 8 times, honestly, and we see this exact same message. And I think that's a huge opportunity where we can say every time we return to Seaport, you get a new message because the story is progressing linearly. We know where the player is at all times. We're not getting surprised, right? So to some degree, it's pretty easy to have like a Seaport 2, Elder Z's speech, XYZ, whatever. And he talks about this. So depending on your all's bandwidth, and I know you're pushing for early access relatively soon, so I want to be really conscientious of that because as someone who's built games myself and done kind of all this stuff, I know timelines matter and it's very hard to manage, and especially when you have a small team and you're still working your full-time job, right? Also, that's something that can evolve over early access, right? Because I know you're really pushing for an early access release, and then you're looking to kind of potentially do content updates as time goes on. Very reasonable approach. And I think that the way I'm scoping these revisions is what can I do with what you already have built. I'm going to lean away from what are new things that we can add, but you can look at that, right? So if I go up and talk to the elder in town when I don't have a quest, you can have varying dialogue for that. Those are all tools that are at your disposal. The question comes down to how much dev time do you all have, for better or for worse. Okay, how's it going, Ledna? Welcome. We're doing a fun. Let me know if you guys can see this edit screen. Okay, I shrunk down my camera. I know you miss seeing my messy garage, but such is the life of a home office. Mission objective: talk to the master ghost hunter. Okay, cool. So I like the objective systems working really well. It was very clear when I was playing. So I'm honestly, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm not going to mess with that for the most part. Okay, Master Ghoster, once again, thank you for saving me. So again, we talked about this already, so I'm not going to go too much into it. But this is, again, verbal doubling, right? We got the same information. I wonder if we can raise the stakes here, right? And this is something that happens later, and this is going to be a thematic note. I've read through this already, kind of know what to expect. So one of the notes we're going to come back to quite a few times is, can we have a progression of stakes? Just as the player progresses, information should come to the player as the game narrative progresses, right? So narrative is generally structured around exposition and conflict make drama, right? So we have a lot of good exposition, we have a lot of information, but it's given to us all at once, and generally by spacing that out a little bit, and I don't think it'll change anything in the gameplay, honestly. And I can put together a proposal, or kind of like what my recommendations would be. But yeah, that's something I would definitely think about because, for example, we don't have a red herring. We only have one kind of bad character who is the elder, right? So to some degree, I know in the end art you show the elder as being in chains, but maybe we have like I think the chained wraith is rising again. He's disrupting the barrier between the spirit world and our world. And then we can think, oh, it's this chained ghost, but it's actually the elder, and then we can. I think you actually did a fantastic job, honestly, as I was reading this, like having the act of the elder doing it as having that drama actually played really well. When I read this, I was actually like, oh crap, like nice job, that's really good. Um, but I do think it always will hit harder if we're getting led a little bit in another direction. Doesn't have to change your structure or your quest structure, because that's the thing that I am holding sacrosanct as sacred in this revision, where you guys have already built most of this game. If we can just change the strings, we can make a better story. That's the goal. And then you can have those discoverable notes in the world, right? Where if I'm in the world, we just say, hey, keep the people afraid. They must rely on us to keep the Mogwai away from them. And you can have those little like discoverable notes in the world. And if the player is really playing the part of the detective, because that's what this story is, it is a detective story. You are trying to solve a problem, and there is a hidden opponent, right? To pretend to be the good, yeah. And but either way works, right? And if you're like, obviously, I'll deliver a set of recommendations after this edit, right? So towards the end of the edit, if I don't know how late this is gonna run. It's already like it's already getting pretty late over here, but I'm gonna try to run until pretty late in this evening to get as far along as possible. But essentially, my goal is to deliver you a set of recommendations saying, hey, look, if this was my game, these are the things that I would change. And then if you say, hey, Jeff, this looks great, I can do it. I'm more than happy. I mean, this is not very long. It's like 3,000 words all in. So I'm more than happy to go through and just like update all this. And then, if you and your team want to go back in and change it, or if you want to just take it or leave it, kind of your call from there, right? Although I've held this off as long as I could, I think it's time I retire. So we actually got retiring language earlier as well, where he's passing, like, this passing of the torch, I think, is pretty significant, at least in my play. So I think this is also getting repeated here. Already passed the torch. Compass. Yeah, the homing compass. The homing compass is yours. So a lot of this space, I think we can actually save and economize, right? You did a really good job with the homing compass passing moment. So let's just lean into that. Trust that the reader understands that you're the ghost hunter now as the player. And then move on towards him setting up, hey, the chained wraith is out there. He's going to get us, if we don't do something soon. I've heard legends of him, and then he's going to break the boundary of the spirit world, and then we actually find that this chained wraith is just this elder who's chained to power, right? And he's so obsessed with power that he's willing to sacrifice the lives of his people. So Nadir's intro, I can go through line by line, but I honestly think that a lot of this stuff will get tweaked. So like the machine I've been working on, pretty expository. So usually you want to avoid putting exposition in dialogue. Like, she can be like, maybe she's giving us context about the machine, like, hey, I talked to the master. He says that, the boundary is weakening. I think I have an idea. It's something I built in college. And then maybe she looks sad and she's like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. I got kicked out of college. But we don't have to know that the elder kicked her out of the institute. We don't have to know that stuff yet. Save it, save it, save it. You actually have a really great structure here, but I think like a lot of people who are doing writing, it's very tempting to play all your cards early, right? And to say, okay, the elder's a jerk. He kicked her out of school, la 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 la. But a lot of that stuff can come later, and I think that will help give a more smooth progression of stakes and tension and conflict throughout the story. All right, I know I'm cutting ahead. I'm sorry. I'm not doing a good job of hiding my cards in this edit, but I think this is stuff that's good to talk through while everyone's online. As you know, the Mogwai attacks have gotten more frequent lately. So again, this had me in the game asking the question, why? What's the threat? And then we just say, oh, hey, it's more frequenting. And I'm like, my theory is that the dimensional wall separates the spiritual world is weakening, which is all fine and good. But again, like in business, and this is kind of my own nerdy business thing, there's a system called the 5 whys, which is like, why is this happening? Why is that happening? So you get me 2 whys here. You get me the Mogwai attacking more frequently, and sorry, even 1 why. I think the dimensional wall is weakening. And then maybe we get, why is the dimensional wall weakening? A greater force is coming in from the spirit world. We think it's like Master thinks it's the Chain Wraith. I'm not sure. There are just more people summoning Mogwai into our dimension. Like, what's wrong with them? Why would they do this? And then we know that they're getting paid by the elders in the end. But those are some questions I would be interesting. Asking, why the wall is weakening should be coming through here. Is it more summoners? Why are people turning more evil? Or is it like the chained wraith, etc. Okay, and I'm just using the chained wraith as an example. If you want to change it to something that's more lore, culturally appropriate, as like the red herring of what we think the evil is, and gamers, especially in a game like this, no one is expecting a twist, right? Like they are expecting gameplay to be first, which I think it should be, and I think you and your team have done a great job on. But if you can deliver on narrative, I think it can really delight some of your players and bring them that extra memorability to the game. And I think you have a really good theme, right? And something that's really timely given how many people in power are causing so much pain because they want to maintain that power, right? All right. I'm going to plug my headphones in so it doesn't turn off on me here. Okay. We're cranking. Okay, so here's the first job. And so again, this was another one of my general notes is like money is the weakest motivation. Is a weak motivator. I think that she should be putting the player, so like the outcome can be the same. The player needs to go to Pulau Hijawan. I'm very sorry for pronouncing that terribly, but I'm from the south. It's very difficult to pronounce things from where I've originated. but but money is a weak motivator. Uh, I don't think you have to change the next destination or the next quest step for her to say, "Hey, go figure out, if what is causing this Mogwai incursion." And it could still be I think it should still be the Rafleza. I'd be like, "Hey, see if you can find any evidence on its corpse." And then, you can find a summoner note or something like that. And then, yeah, you get paid, you can bring that back to her, but it'll also deepen this mystery arc in terms of, oh well, the Raffaleza, had a weird summoning circle that I've only seen when they captured my master. So whoever captured my master must have also summoned this Raffalesia. Those types of things can be really easy to add, and then just take the narrative up a whole notch, right? Is it like investigate what's happening to the barrier, see the same summoning circle, etc. Okay. Nadir the inventor. Okay, so then then we have the repeatable. The suspect is due to a planet by. Take a trip and be sure you have a bath before you come back. Thanks. So yeah, I love this. I think we should keep this for sure. I think your humor belongs in this. I think it absolutely is part of this balance of tone, which is very hard to do, but I think it's something worth striving for. Of the serious story, but also having some lighthearted moments. So like keep, this is a great. This is great. Okay, so now we go to Pulau Hiad. We go to the next area. Pulau is the largest satellite islet. So again, same kind of challenge that we're seeing here with this intro. Very expository, and it's working against this world feeling deeper, right? Because it's the same voice. It's the same narrator telling me about Pulau. Hijawan. There we go. I think I got that. Um, So again, whether this is like a shipping manifest or like a cargo delay where someone says, "Hey, we had our cargo and some monsters stole it," or like a lost report. I think I had like a little idea here I wrote down in my initial review. I just read it. Mm. Yeah, or it could be like a little miniature vignette, kind of like what you do later, where what's the Rafflesia, and how is it created? Like to make like maybe it's like a like a sorcerer's construction manual to raise a Rafflesia from the spirit world. Take three, whatever it is. Like it must be in an area without many people, and like we can still learn about this particular area and the village, um, you know, and there must be lots of like plant life and farming, to summon the Rafflesia successfully. Whatever that is, I do think that there's opportunity here for like polyphony and a different style of intro. I actually really like that you have these intros. I think it's going to go a long way. The other thing I would do is I would have a few discoverable, add a few discoverable text items in this map. Um, mm, mm, um, yeah. Add a few discoverable text where it could be like, it could be just like a burnt note. And this could be pick upable or not, where it's just like, keep them. And it could just be something, not like a little subtle like that, where we don't know who's it from. Keep them afraid of the Mogwai. Their fear is our fuel. That's a bad example. But as you start learning about, hey, what is going on with these Mogwai? Why are they invading this town and so much, causing so much damage? That can hopefully be a really helpful device to start without too much engineering effort, add a lot of complexity to the story. And probably if I go through and do this like full revision, I'll be adding like, okay, these are the two notes for this area. These are the two notes for this area. These are the two discoverable story things for this area. And I think that'll help. That'll help deepen a lot of this the player's experience. Okay, so we delete. We destroy the Rafflesia, and then we go to Seaport a second time. Um, oh, here, hold on. All right. Okay. Doodly doodly doo. Got some posts in there. All right. Okay. The second thing is we get back to Seaport. So the second return in this, we do have that same intro screen. I think I would. It's funny that you don't repeat it here. But essentially, it's telling us the same thing. So I would have this be, another more recent tourism bulletin or a, speech transcript from Elder. Oh goodness, what's his name again? Excuse me. Important looking man. Elder Zenith. He's at the top. Okay. Also, if anybody else in chat has thoughts or questions, feel free to ask. I've been drinking a bunch of water. I'm going to take a quick restroom break, and I will let you all evaluate this intro here. Go for it. Alrighty, back at it again. Okay, so Nadir, good job. Here's your cut of the payment. Again, payment's kind of a weak motivator, but we already talked about that earlier. I like that we have you. We have some language that's local to the area. You Bordeaux. What did I tell? I don't know if I'm saying that right. What did I tell you about taking a bath? I love this. Keep, keep. I think that's really fun. I think that's in your voice. So even if I go through and do a revision on this, that is something I would definitely keep because I think it's ticking a lot of the boxes, right? We're getting this balance of humor and seriousness. We're getting a callback to a previous joke, and then we're also getting a nice payoff with the character. Actually, pretty close. Nice. Well, even a broken clock's right twice a day, right? Okay. Camera pans over to strange device with an important-looking man standing behind it. Again, I think this happens a little too soon. I think this vignette should probably come in the next thing. NW Country Girl, thanks for stopping in. Hi, bye. Oh, well, thank you for checking in. It's always so nice to hear everybody and to see everybody out in the ether. And I hope your writing is going well. And as always, best wishes with whatever projects you're working on these days. And thanks for popping by. Okay. Yeah, so I think that should probably happen Seaport 3. Editing my first point of view while I feel excited. That's awesome. I'm guessing it's your first person point of view, right? Always tricky to do. I actually, for a lot of my video game projects, one of the stylistic choices I've made is to use first person over second person. It's a little bit less jarring sometimes, but that's mostly an approach I take for my own stuff. I think every project is different, but I have leaned in that direction. So first person is a great POV to practice. Very, very versatile. Actually, very, very has a few less challenges, I think, than some other POVs. Like third person's a little tougher to manage. Omniscient is extremely difficult to manage. You have to be um, extremely thought out to make an omniscient point of view work. Okay. Okay, look at this monstrosity sitting in the middle of our fine city. Eh? What's that foul stench? Again, love this. And maybe this like gets broken up, right? Where we just see him. Like this probably could be its own separate thing. Like, yours riffraff, get out of here. Um, so this could be like a potential. Like if he talks to this character, it says, hey, this is a named character. It's an elder. This could be like an optional discussion at, Seaport 2. But the, deeper convo about the machine might be better in Seaport 3. I think this is 2, right? Yeah, this is 2. Yeah. Okay. So, like, this, we get told... Sorry, I'm getting a little snack. I apologize for the chomping. I guess it's an ASMR stream now. Okay, I feel more restored. So this section here about getting fired from the institute, it's pretty exposition heavy, right? It's actually more okay to use exposition in those scene intros in other places than dialogue, because the one problem with putting exposition in dialogue, it's just not how people talk. So it always rings a little false to the reader. So I would avoid that. I would just say, give me the intro here. Maybe it's just like, I hate that guy, and we don't know why. And then in the next one, we can learn. So remember, you're bringing all your reveals in all at once, and I think you actually have a lot of really well thought out plot beats, but they're not getting spaced in a way that's heightening drama. And so one of the things I would do is I'd say, hey, keep a lot of the plot beats you've built, keep a lot of his structure, but rearrange it a little bit so that you are able to heighten the drama from it. Okay. To this day, I don't know what his bloody problem is. I like that this use of bloody. This is good colloquial language. Makes it feel like there's a person talking, right? That's the problem with exposition. He got me fired from the institute. That does not feel as natural to a person saying, I don't know what his bloody problem is. That feels more organic. And honestly, if I was going to be like a crazy line editor, you don't need to this day. We already know that she still thinks that, and it's pretty clear, right? I do like this line about office politics, so I think no matter what, you'll want to keep this as well. I think that sets up a really, and again, this is not using exposition, right? She's saying, I bet it's nice that you don't have to deal with office politics and you just get to kill monsters. It's a funny line, but it's also clearly communicating her role, where she is the non-fighter, but the background person that's navigating politics, navigating the complexities of the situation. That tells me a lot more about Nadir than a lot of the actual upfront exposition, because it tells me a little bit about what she thinks about it, right? I know from this sentence that she not only does office politics stuff, but she does it as a necessary evil. Something she doesn't feel like doing, but she's doing nonetheless because she's a heroic character, right? So I think this line is extremely important. I think a lot of this revision will be using the principles that you kind of see bubbling up in some of these lines a little bit more throughout the rest of the draft, and cutting out some of those extra expository moments that you honestly don't need in a lot of ways, because you're doing a good job with these other things as well, and it'll save you a lot of space. The guy already sells a permit to set up. There's nothing you can do about it. Let's focus on our next job. So again, next job to get money. Um, is this to get money or is this to stop the cultists? That's the one thing I'm not super clear on. Is this to get money or stop the cultists? So again, those are the types of questions that having really clear progression in terms of when I go out to a world, I want to know what it is I'm doing and why I should care. So I think probably the most important thing that will affect gameplay is figuring out for each stage what's the goal when I leave Seaport and go out into the world. What's the goal? How does it increase in scale or scope from the previous goals? How have the stakes been raised? How is it a more important goal than the last one? You know, last one was good, but it's gotten worse, or whatever that is. We need to have that information, and that will give a lot of the narrative momentum that um, I think is in the DNA of this story, but it still is having trouble expressing itself a little bit. So again, we start with this intro, which actually I think is one of your best intros. Um, let's see. Yeah, too long. Show through action. Okay, looking through some of my notes here. Yeah, I think that's right. So that lore in the middle is what I want, right? This is the core of what makes your game different, is the fact that it's using a different lore system than a lot of Western games, that it's adding this it's the world. The world is first, right? And so one of the challenges is I like this intro on Seafort, but it buries this really cool bit of lore. And I think there are ways you could develop that even further, right? Let me see. I think I had some notes on that one particularly. Oh yeah. So for that one, you could even do something like bringing it into a scene or like a battle report. So it's like battle report from Pulau Kubor. Um, you know, day 15. Um, you know, it could be a general giving that report and saying this is how our power solidifies on the blood of thousands, and like those words, dark energy, like bleed into the ground, and that's what creates all. And then his own undead soldiers rise up against him and strike him down. Those are kind of some cool, which is kind of like what happens here, but it's set up in an expository language style rather than in a dramatic language style, so you lose some of the momentum. To bring us, let us feel the lore. So you have this wonderful lore, but if it's only done through exposition, it's much harder to feel it and experience it as a reader, especially since you're leaning heavily on prose to accomplish these goals, right? So one of the things I would encourage is in these things lean towards the senses: smell, touch, taste, feel, sight, hearing. Um, by using the reader's senses and referencing them in these little tags, it will make us, the readers, feel it a little bit more, and then not just by reading the lore and being like, oh, that's an interesting Wikipedia entry. We will actually feel those chills, feel those kind of like, ugh, like that's creepy. So that would be my biggest encouragement for all of these, but this one especially, because you actually have this really cool situation. Like, it's a really kind of chilling and intense story. But because of the way it's getting delivered, because it's very, very summarized, very pulled back, we don't get to even have like a hint of the scene. Much harder to have the experiential feel of it. Okay, let's see here. Um, Last Mogwai Summoner plays the faces. player faces become the Haru Raya instead. Yep. Okay, I do know that. I played through that part. Haru Raya was tough, but really fun. Your job is done here. Return to Seaport. Okay, well done. It's now safer thanks to your efforts. But I didn't know I was, you know, I didn't know I was going there for safety. I thought I was out there to make money. Um, yeah. So was I going out there for safety? Was I trying to make money for the inventions? Again, these follow-ups, um, don't always match. The island is safer thanks to your efforts. Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The only other thing I actually wonder because she's an inventor and like the way she speaks does not give me that genius inventor vibe too much. Sensical, immediate, sensical is gone. True, true, true. That's totally true. Um, but the question would be: Is that what she cares about? Yes, she cares that the island's safer, but she's been trying to get money to make this invention to make everybody safer. Because like the boundaries between the world are weakening. From my point of view, it feels like any solution is only a temporary one because the boundaries between the spirit and the physical world are tearing apart because of this elder abusing those boundaries to keep the people in fear and to keep himself in power. I could be wrong, but that's at least one thing. But also, I think this goes back to my note about Nadir. She's just like awesome inventor archetype. I want her to talk like an inventor, right? I don't know if she wants to make everybody suffer. If she's going to suffer, she just wants to be right. Yeah, that's a really great question for you and your goals about the character. My my sense of Nadir is that she's absent-minded, where she's very smart, but she's not thinking about very much else except her invention. So there's not, like this narcissistic side of it, at least in my reading of her, but she's just completely preoccupied with what she's building. Um, where she doesn't think about the safety. She's just like, okay, cool, I got some more money to buy this part for my machine, right? Um, but again, this goes back to like we've managed to scrape together enough funds because then we talk about the funds as well here. So it does set up that dual goal of funds mentioned here, and can we give Nadir a bit more of an inventor's, and we can just play into the archetype, right? Where she's like, yes, 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 absolutely. Like whatever her, she'll be using jargon, right? She'll be saying, now if I could only fix my, system transducer, right? What is like that inventor's voice for like, voice examples, right? Yes, yes, hurrying you on. It could be, using jargon. Oh yeah, my theory is that. Yeah, my theory is that. Hypothesis, yeah. So I think those types of things can be good. Yeah, yeah, it is. In fact, both of them are pretty similar. So yeah, so I think that would be something that as we go through the revision and we say, okay, we've got all these notes. What do we want to do about them? That would be one thing that for Nadir I would think about is how can I spice up her language to have some more jargon? She's talking about like my brackets are loose on the back side of the machine. I gotta go fix that. Whatever she's saying. I think those are pretty those can be some advantages that can add a little bit of depth. And as we think about polyphony, this number of different voices that make the story feel deeper, you really want all those characters to have their old voice, like their true voice. Like even the master, maybe because he's so old, he's saying stuff like where did master go here? So like, does he? Because of his age, you know, because of his age, does he say stuff like my child, or like my um like or like like just different verbal tics that would happen in an older character, or like goodness me. That's like a westernized version of it, but I know there's probably equivalents in your all's world. So those would be things to think about, right? Is we have four characters. So what I should be able to do, I should be able to cover their name on the dialogue and know who is speaking. It's very, I know that's not easy, but this is like a rule for screenplays, and I used to work a lot in film and TV, and so one of the things that you would just do every time is you would cover up the name of the character speaking, you would cover up this bit and say, "Can I tell that this is Nadir talking or not?" And I like that she uses stuff like "ayo" and like these types of expletive, so that might be a her thing, right? She's the master ghost hunter is not saying like bloody and io and stuff like that, but she is. So that actually makes her feel unique. Like she's kind of swearing a little bit, or using expletive language. Those types of things. But the master ghost hunter maybe is using a more antiquated version, or speaking in a different cadence, right, where he's just talking slower or using longer sentences. An inventor could use very, very short sentences in their speech, right? Whereas the master ghost hunter probably is going to be speaking in longer compound sentences, where he'll be having ands and buts and stuff, where the inventor is just going to go straight to the point. I'm going to put on some music so my headphones stop turning off because it's really annoying. Um, I don't think y'all will be able to hear it because I turned it off, but goodness me, longer sentences. Okay. All right. I know I'm jumping around a little bit. Let me know if you have any questions so far. I know I've covered a lot, but hopefully, we'll have a nice, neat list of recommendations at the end of this stream, and then we can say, hey, what do we want to move forward on? What do we want to change? And then go from there. So that's actually going to be one of my overall notes, is developing. Yeah, developing individualized character voices. You have four characters. It sounds like brutal, but you have to make them count. Like it really is critical. Um, what we're looking for there is a rare material known as chthonite. So, is this the Greek? Is this a play on the Greek verb? I'm pretty sure this is. It's like the spirit stone. It's like the Greek word for spirit. I'm gonna look this up on Wikipedia. I think that's what it is. Yeah, okay. I knew it. So it's a soul stone. Is that intentional that it's like the Greek version of the Diablo soul stone? Also, I wonder if there is a Singaporean word that might fit better, because it is, I think leaning into the Singaporean lore is a really thoughtful approach. Um, and maybe there is a better word for that. Ah, yeah. Oh, it's a reference to the Taiwanese band. Okay, well, hey, that's gravy. Just was curious. That's just a random question. Um, okay, cool. I just had to type it in. Oh, I want that heavy metal. Oh, hey, that's great. I think in order to just keep being excited by your game, having stuff like that is so critical that you kind of just only get. No, no, no. That's totally fine. That's totally fine. I think that's totally appropriate. If it gets you excited, I mean, the most important person to sell on your writing, this goes for all the other writers who watch the stream, is you got to get yourself excited about what you're writing. Otherwise, what's the point? I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. It's one of the things I need the separator. I need to get the separator up and running. Um, and I want some urgency here. So we good? So I like that this goal is is more central to the plot and progression. So we're moving forward. We're saying, hey, we need 3 pieces to finish this thing, or 2 pieces to finish this thing. Very common game structure, and that makes me feel like what I'm doing out in that world is not just getting money. I couldn't just work at a sandwich shop and make money, but actually driving the plot forward with something rare and unique. But I need more stakes here, or urgency. Like, is the barrier getting weaker and weaker? Or like, or did the machine burn through the, current supply of Chthonite? I can't spell, but whatever. Yeah, you know the one. I booked the ticket already. Go board the ferry. You're going to go overseas. So exciting, right? Yeah. So again, I would cut this and just do like, and I know I'm not doing a bunch of line edits because those will probably come later, but like, so this is more organic, right? Like, go board the ferry. You're going to go overseas. So exciting, right? So again, just doesn't feel like a natural dialogue delivery. And then her should be cutting words, right? So it'd be clip. Ferry leaves in 15. I booked the ticket. Ferry leaves in 15. So like again, this kind of punchy dialogue tone for her could work a little bit better, right? Okay. Quinceañera ruins. So I mean, this could be another tourist thing, right? Because it's a tourist hotspot. This could be another, yeah. Please avoid live magic constructs. The park closes, closes between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. Whatever. Days since last accident. 13. Sorry, I cracked myself up. A treasure chest with the key, Chthonite in it. Okay, great. They acquire the thing. Back to Seaport. Music it changes. Okay. Could I use follow by instead of and in a series of actions? Could you give me an example of that sentence, Ledna? I'm not really sure exactly what you're asking. Hmm. Did you manage to find it? Yes, I'm one step closer to my goal. I'll show those guys for firing me. So I like this. But this should be like where it comes in, and it should be like Nadir. Oh, didn't I tell you? That jerk elder got me kicked out of the institute. I lowered myself into Scott, ducking wild punch, followed by thrusting the hilt of my sword. Um, It's a little clunky in that phrasing. The one thing I would do. So, first, doing action in a compound sentence can be challenging, right? So, you have three verbs. It's going to be tough for the reader to picture the action. Um, I would break up that sentence, honestly. If it was me, I would say, I hit the floor. You know, Joe's punch flew inches over my head. Um, and I rolled, and as he was following through, comma, I rolled and stabbed my sword into his gut. You know, but yeah, overall, I think you can use follow by. I would just generally lean towards if you're going to use a compound verb, I would generally lean towards just keeping it simple and using and though, if you really really want to stick with that initial construction. I didn't tell you. Yeah, so again, and now like we had this raise the stakes about getting this item, and now we're back to jobs. Um, all right. Eastern civilizations have uncovered ancient urns that contain native smoking known as jinns in them. So again, to my knowledge, a jinn is an Arabic mythology, right? It's an Arabic construction. So I would just ask like, is jinns the right monster? I mean, I feel like your monster list. So I was looking over it, has a lot of really cool stuff. It has like, you know, the Hanuraya. I mean, I don't know what that. I mean, I think that's like the boss guy. Hold on. It has the Jenglat. These are all cool concepts. The Rakasha, the Pontiac. Like so. Like, I wonder if we can leverage one of those. But yeah, that's right. Okay. 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 Cool. 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 I guess that makes sense because that is the source of the religion. Okay. Cool. Well, you know what to do by this point. I like this a little bit more conversational. Like this keep. Okay, so now another intro screen. I think you've heard me say this already. I think there's ways to rework these into more interesting narrative pieces. Um, you survived. I was worried you were a goner. So, is there a reason for that? Why was she worried? I've been doing pretty good so far. So I think those are some of the questions I would ask in terms of her dialogue. I think a lot of the Nadir dialogue, except for a few of these things, I would just kind of repurpose to be pretty functional around the story. But let me see. Did you mind it? So those guys are firing me. I like the hand to Tingy. That's a really cool monster. Um, I just wasn't sure what to put there. Hey, that's great. So that's I think one of the things that I'll probably recommend doing is making, and one of the things, if you want me to go forward and actually do some of the revisions on this, I for myself will be developing an outline and restructuring some of the plot beats. Because if you have, let's say you have this chained wraith as your antagonist, there can be areas where he's showing up, things that he's doing. You can really have more of a back and forth. So what I think this symbolizes saying, hey, I didn't really know what to put here, is just sort of like, hey, we need to have a little bit more back and forth in the plot. Doesn't need to change the gameplay structure at all, but it's really just the context. We're putting the gameplay in, and I think that could be pretty manageable, honestly, and it'll take like an afternoon or two to polish it up. Um, okay. The Hantu Tingy, love this concept. It's awesome. But there should be some of her color, like like I wish I could study it. Because honestly, she's building a spirit realm thing. So why doesn't she want a piece of this Hantu Trigi to dissect it and like learn about how things are going between the spirit world or something? It's a silly example, but those would be some of the questions that I would have. Pulu Baku, natural reserve, fishing, kayaking, cycling, common activities. Yeah, again, I think there's a lot we can do with those. Finds the entrance to the domain, Mangrove 2. Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, but a lot of this stuff we'll probably implement as we. I'm getting to a decent ways in. Could be a flesh sample or something. Yeah. Your job here is to return to Seaport. A few years back, took so long I wanted to file a missing person report. So again, this feels like that similar thing where we're missing a little bit of the potential plot context, and I think we're going to honestly have to restructure that. I'll try to do some of it at the end of the stream if I still have time, but most likely if you say, hey Jeff, I want you to go in and do like a deeper revision of this, I'm happy to do it, but I'll probably want to like move around a lot of stuff and to find like, hey, how do we build a red herring? How do we build like a fake antagonist? And then seed in some of this information about the true antagonist. A few years back, as long as I wanted to file this report. Yeah. Same. Can this tie to plot? While you were gone, there was a news report saying we moved to Cat 2. So again, this Cat system, this is the first I've heard of it, and this is my 6th time in Seaport. So I don't know how committed you are to like the Cat system. This feels a bit artificial. Couldn't we use like like I wonder if there was even just words you could pick instead of the Cat system, right? Where it's Ooh, I think I had written this down somewhere. Oh yeah. Like where it's like you could just use something that's clear, right? Like, 'cause I don't know what the Cat system is. We can do like unstable state, blended state. When we're getting portals. With portals coming in, and then we eventually get to like the death state. Whatever. That's like a bad example, but or the black state. Death's a little bit trite. The Cat system comes in a little late. Not super clear exactly what it means. Something more descriptive. So if I can understand what Cat 2 means without having to get this description here, that's like a really big advantage, right? It saves you a lot of time, um, and it makes the play a lot more efficient. So one thing to think about is to say, is using a system that even if I'm glancing through the dialogue, which a lot of players will do, like some people just want to click, get to the next thing. But even if someone is doing that, they can maybe catch the gist and say, oh, it's in a blended state now, raising the stakes. I think this is really important. I think this like nearing of the two dimensions is extremely important. I think it just needs a clarity pass. It's just not super clear on everything. I like this idea of certain stretches of road repeating themselves. This is pretty cool. These are due to Cat 1 spatial distortion. The traditional name is Guidakyang. I can't. Yeah. I'm trying. When the spirit corridors start to appear, spirit corridors are areas. Yes. So again, so like we kind of get this. I almost wondering if you could just call it. If you just call it the traditional name, like why not just call it the traditional name? I think that like even if it's something I can understand as like a Western person, I think that's more interesting, and it's like it gives a sense of mystery to it. So like, why not just use? Okay. Alrighty. Cat 2's a spirit towards spirit. When you're not careful, you can no clip. Is that referencing the no clip? I saw you mentioned that it was a reference. Is it for like the documentaries, like the no clip documentaries? I don't know, but I was just curious about that. That's what I first thought. I was like, the no clip documentaries, or is it like the actual like no clip thing? So yeah, I think this is a little bit, especially given our era, I'd lean towards cutting this. If you're ever forcing dialogue, it's okay to do fun stuff that doesn't change dialogue tone, but I think this does. Okay. Was one such now spirit quarters are not all spirit quarters are bad. The homing compass harnesses their power. Sorry, I can't help but do some line edits. I'm a traditional editor at heart in some ways. Their power of spirit quarters to our benefit, but I've gone off topic. So I like this. Honestly, this is a very ingenious inventor thing. I like that changing subjects, scatterbrain, and this is honestly what gave me the impression of her as a scatterbrain inventor and not necessarily a selfish one. But yeah, off we go. Keep a lookout for any spirit corridors. Again, this is a little on the nose. Okay. So, Ghost Hunter, please help me find my daughter. Okay, so I wonder if we could see this woman and her daughter earlier and maybe just have some like quick repeatable dialogue for them where if she's just like, "Hey, like my little girl's playing, she's going to school, and if you want to talk to them, you can." That's something I would do because whenever you have like a character at stake, it's so difficult to make the player care about the rescue. Because they're just like, well, I don't know who this person is. I don't care. They don't even have a name here. So I think she disappeared because of the God King. Oh. But yeah, those would just be things to think about. I would lean towards, having at least a small intro, small, optional, repeatable intro for woman, daughter. Because that's eventually what they become. They eventually have that repeated. So it's like that system's already built. I think it just needs to get implemented, at least to my knowledge. Okay. Wonder if she ran away because I pushed her too hard to study in exams. So like this is a great thing to have in like the earlier intro. Where like you go up to the woman and she's like, "You're not studying, like don't distract my daughter. She needs to be an A student." And then then she can say, "Was I pushing him too hard or her too hard?" Don't interrupt my child's studies, my daughter's studies. She will be an A student. And whatever. Silly example. If I actually go through, I'm going to rework a lot of this example dialogue, but just to give directional indicator. All right. The foxy lady, my better half has returned home. So we'll probably take a few minute break when she gets inside, because I want to say goodnight prayers with her and just make sure that she's doing okay and see how her day went. But then I'll be back. Don't worry. Bannernold Hospital. So we already got this. We already again. This is another thing where we're getting repeated information, right? And it's okay to like add new stuff. I think this has been on, right? I think so. Okay. Um, talks to the girl. I'm scared. I wanted to kind of say something creepy here, honestly. Like and then we have these creepy things later where she's like, the city, it's breaking apart, and all there is behind it is blood, blood, blood. Like something creepy because you have these amazing creepy images, and yeah, and then maybe when she gets back, she snaps out of it, right? Um, like this is like, oh, I don't remember what happened in there. Oh, I better help her get in. I'll be right back. I'll be back in about 5, 10 minutes. Alrighty, I return. Most excellent. All right. Doodly doodly doo. The mother and the woman. So I'm going relatively quickly through the actual words and prose, just because a lot of this stuff is going to get rearranged and rewritten anyways. So it would be, given the nature that a lot of the edits I'm delivering are structural, right? Where not necessarily that all these lines are going to get completely reworked or whatever, but that a lot of the bones of the story will at least get rearranged. It doesn't make too much sense to go into like every line, clean up and fine tune every last thing. Mainly because as you rearrange structure, you're going to be adding more context, you're going to be adding more clarity and adjusting the lines anyways, especially given the fact that we want to give the characters a little bit more of a voice. So that will just kind of be a pass over all the different characters in any event, right? Okay. Seaport 7. Mm. Oh no. He said add more voice, which is equivalent to thorough passover. Yeah. Of every line. Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately. But actually, Ledna, I did offer to help these folks do implement some of these revisions because this is a very short document, honestly. If it was a longer game, I would be like, good luck. But because it's like 2,500 words on the top end, that's not super. That's like an afternoon. So always, and I love like these style of games. Whoops. So I'm always willing to contribute to the genre, because I want more good stories out there. Gosh darn it. Yeah, I don't know what this concept of the Heartlands is. So again, in this, I would say that we do need to introduce some ideas sooner. Whether it's like the woman and child, the Heartlands concept. Oh yeah, cough. My story is 25 minus a few zeros. No, bad. Yeah. Man, that's the thing. I'm such a softie. I don't think you all want to know for like because I do some content. So I do a lot of marketing executive consulting, and so some of that does involve content and doing like quick revisions of stuff. And you all would go cross-eyed if you know how much I charge hourly to my business. You all would literally barf. One of the reasons I can stream is I'm very, very expensive for non-hobby revisions and stuff. Very, very expensive, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, for fun stuff like video games, I got a soft spot. You guys and gals know how to. I just love video games so much, and I get so frustrated that some of their narrative isn't as polished as it could be. But I'm really glad. Like this developer is taking the initiative. They did a lot of things right. They chose an existing fable and folklore. They adapted it, so you already have a bones of a really good story because it's lasted for 1,000 years. And 110 per 500 words at your turn. So for like editing, I actually charge a lot cheaper. So for my marketing stuff, I do a lot of non-editing stuff, so I charge hourly for that. And so like if I'm doing some editing for them in those hours, it's just like really expensive hours. But like I try to be pretty cheap for my normal editing. My like fiction editing, fun. This is my something I enjoy doing. I'm pretty cheap, I feel like, which is about 3 cents a word for like a developmental edit, which is like really really cheap. Given the fact that like my hourly rate for consulting is insane. Even I think it's insane, but I'm actually underpriced, which is even crazier. And like I just literally have a moral obligation to charging I'm like a moral objection to charging more because it's just like this doesn't make sense. Like why? Like there's no skill set that's worth this much. I'm sorry. Anyways, I digress. Heartland's concept and cat. Let me get out my calculator. But like 3 cents a word comes out to like 30 an hour, where definitely it's not paying me back for my time. It's more just to like make some money on my hobby. Yeah. That's for editing though. For writing it's usually like 15 cents a word. So, you can multiply that by 5. It's not super expensive for the hobby stuff. It's not a good sign. The council allocates resources to ensure populators. So I wonder if why is like Nadir telling me this stuff? Could this come from the elders' voice or another source? Seems like Nadir. I mean, we're leaning really heavily on Nadir. I wonder if we can mix up who's the speaker, right? Like, so she's always the one talking. This is an optional note. I don't know how much engineering resources it would take, depending on how you set things up. But having different speakers besides just Nadir, even if it's like Master Ghost Hunter or, um, you know, or the Elder, whatever. Like, that's one thing that I think can add a lot of. Again, it comes down to the multiple voices matter so much in storytelling. Having having the same thing getting said in different ways by different people from different sources adds so much complexity. That's fair. I picked the wrong editors. I had one tripping 30 per 10 pages. What? That's crazy. I admire the effort you went through to finesse new authors. Yikers. Yeah. It's taken me a long time to find because I use editors for my work because there's no writer in this world that is a good and clean judge of their own writing. I don't like I've gotten better at it, but I still always use an external editor because it's just necessary. It's necessary. And so yeah, I've worked with a fantastic editor who I'd be happy to recommend if you ever want. I mean, I don't care if you give me the business or somebody else. Like I said, this is not where I drive income. So, um, but yeah, it's definitely an interesting. It's always kind of crazy how much some people charge for like so little, and how little some people charge for so much. Where you're like, man, this person's transforming my writing, but maybe they're not quite as expensive as like somebody who's just gonna like run it through a machine learning algorithm and pretend like they edited the whole thing. The council allocates resources. Yeah, so like what resources? Could this be something the elder? Yeah, I mean, I wonder if this could be something the elder brings up earlier. I'm actually gonna to go up to where the elder spoke last, and bring it into his dialogue section. Um, all right. The resources. I don't know if you remember the in the game, but every time you leave a town, there's those blue berries. I do. Okay, so those are like the separators. Ah, I do remember that. I had no idea that they were connected to this. We could even like so then these are the blue barriers. Um, yeah, so that is actually something that could get communicated through like notes and things you find. Yeah, so that would be one of the things, like those little facts, the ones that keep the monsters out. Mind blown. Thank you. No, that's really great context. That's awesome. Um, yes. This could be something you find in the world, and they're like, our barrier is weakening. The blue field is fading, and two monsters got into town today, right? Like the Pulau X, barrier is weakening. The blue light flickered twice, and one Iguai. Yeah, so that could be like an example, right? Or you have a little note like this, tells us about what's going on, but it's optional. So like if I am like a player that just does not care, that's fine. They'll just keep chugging through. But yeah, there's some more flexibility there. Okay, I have to find a way to enter its demonic realm. Okay, we got that. That's a little further up. Where did my notes end? Okay, here we go. This might be the Mogwai. So this concept of like the Mogwai becoming more powerful needs to come in from the beginning. This is great, but needs to be part of the story from the start. You must hurry. You need to make another excursion. Astrolite. Okay, so I think this was really good clarity for me that these two minerals have meaning to you as a writer and they should be kept in the story, right? So great. Um, can she tell us what's different, or if it's a different color, or why? Again, like just getting a little touch of meaning behind the things I'm doing and getting could is pretty transformative. So this is the Crystal Caves, a sacred site. Okay, awesome. So maybe just describe the origin story. You know. Okay, cool. Red, blue. Perfect. That's good. As long as it's getting represented somehow, that's probably what's important. So I'll do like represented in game. The other thing here is like I would try like again we're looking to get a lot of different voices. That is how you make a small narrative seem bigger. A lot of different voices in a small package, right? So for this, we could have like an excerpt from some mythology where like the god, and also if you have gods, I don't know if there was one that was named. It's considered a sacred site. Eruption by a miracle, the lava crystallized. The hand of the gods. Okay, yeah. The god stretched out its hand and touched the hillside of Batu Singwam. Crystals erupted between its fingers. Giving us a little bit of color and letting us be in that scene, and also treating it like an ancient record can just again give you more mileage. Okay, I see the picture of the crystal here. Awesome. Okay, your job here is done. Return to Seaport. There are occasional scream shades. I love this environmental storytelling. So good. Is best, and it's showing, and it's not telling, right? Like we're seeing, something's going on. The council confiscated the separator. This all feels pretty organic. I think this is the right time for this to happen. Maybe like the tourism thing could be like, you know, I'm being a little silly in some of these notes, but if I go through and actually do like the deeper revision this weekend, um, I'll be a little more serious, I promise. On top of that, can you feel the ground shaking? So we already get this. So again, this is coming through. This is coming through the. So again, trust the storytelling you're already doing. You already have ground shaking in the environmental storytelling in the scene. Just say find out what's causing the tremors. Assumed we know that there are tremors. I'll petition the council to return the separator. I have a bad feeling about this. I like that this. I'm guessing this is a Star Wars reference. But there isn't a repeatable line, is there? Oh, I guess this whole section's repeatable. Got it. That's the closing. Yes. Yeah, thought so. Well, as a Star Wars fan, I won't revise that out. We'll leave that in. That belongs there. Okay. Seaport Underground, same thing. We want to revamp this, most likely. I'll just do like same. And there'll probably be, we'll have some ideas on how to do that. I'll locate the source of the tremors. Mogwai Gate. Once the player reaches a scripted sequence begins. So again, if this is going to come in here, this needs to be more heavily established. Like this circle needs to factor more deeply into the story throughout to come in as a, hindrance at the end of the story. So this is going to go back. I'm going to go back up to the top to my suggestions, and I'm going to have this other, like, more coffee and cat dog, welcome. OMG. Welcome, Raiders. Welcome indeed. More coffee. Welcome, Coffee Quills. Welcome, Raiders. Good to see ya all. We tonight are editing the narrative of a video game. The developer is here. Ghostlore Andrew is the gentleman, and we're going through slicing and dicing a little bit. Thank you for the follow, Mystery Voice. Long time no see, Coffee Quills. I know. How you doing? Hope you're doing well. How's your writing coming along? And how's everybody else's writing coming along? Tell me about what y'all are working on. All the raiders who have stormed the I don't know what, the castle. And Mystery Voice, thank you for the follow. Okay, so this concept, want to introduce it earlier. Upon ability to move or interact, asphotic lurchers start to materialize around the area. Spawn effects the same as Mogwai summon. Okay, so yeah, good. You're economizing your effects. Stream slowly becomes, and then we go to the hellish version of Seaport. So I'm trying to remember what triggers this. I find the Mogwai Gate, so I find the source of the tremors. Okay, so like once I get to the Mogwai Gate, kicks it off. Got it. Okay, Seaport Hell. So I think all that stuff in terms of its flow. This last scene, I didn't have too many complaints in terms of the flow. I thought it paced relatively well. I had a few things I thought would be interesting to add. Um, and there also just wasn't much dialogue here, right? Except when we get to Nadir's next. I keep on saying Nadia. I don't know why. It's almost identical. We're in this like kind of hellscape now. Okay, working on 1960s romance. Cool. Published blasted research on 214. Currently working on setting down roots. Spicy rom com. Well, feel free to post links to your work in chat. This is a writers can let's get back to it. Yes, good luck, Guinevere. Good luck with your writing. Um, and coffee quills. Yeah, if you have a link you want to share, feel free. I'm always down to shout out folks and make sure that people get to see all the good news of all the cool stuff you guys are working on. Okay, so congratulations, you're dead. I like this. I think this should be one line. Well, I think the spacing's actually okay here, so I think that's good. I think this is a solid intro. Surprising, right? I think that's keepable. And so am I. So is everybody. Or to be more precise, yeah. I think this is gets a little. This is overplaying it just a smidge. So Seaport is entered, and again, I wish we could find a better word than Cat 3 because it doesn't describe what it is outside of an external definition. So like it could be like the black state. We've entered the black state. Um, or like the dead state, whatever. I think we had talked about that a little bit earlier. Um, Shared post-apocalyptic comedy rom-com romance. What? That's awesome. I'm clicking on it. All y'all should click on it too. Very cool. Very cool. Nice. Love it. Well, thanks for the share. Okay, so support is state. And this could be the same. I don't think I need to have the restatement here if we don't need a definition. Making concepts. Oh, I shouldn't line edit. I'm sorry. It's a difficult temptation to line edit and to clean up the language. We'll do all the line editing later at a later date. We're doing structure right now. Stay on target, Jeff. The masters are protecting the town from some of the nastier Mogwai that are hell bent on torturing her. Phrasing is a little bit. I would just do word choice here. I won't come up with an example because I think we're going to change a decent amount. Still fighting the good fight, even here in the afterlife. But again, I thought the master was too old for this, right? So, wasn't he too old? Or is this just an emergency and everyone has to step up? I also want to see some of that, at least the callback to the old, like, I don't know how long he'll last at his age. You need to hurry. Whatever. So we do need some sort of callback to his age and why he's fighting now, even though it's like assumed, like, okay, this is a mission critical situation. Something is going desperately wrong with the town, and there is immediate help needed. I still think it's worth thinking through okay, at least giving us an explanation because he's stepped out of the fighting. Everything else has felt pretty urgent. Like, hey, like, there's demons coming into our reality from their spirit plane, you know, but he seemed to have like signed himself out of that. But why is he stepping up again here? If you can look at this separate and put Astrolite in it, we might be able to get to it. Okay, I think this is a solid goal. I don't think I don't think the bones of this area needs to change as much. I think some of the dialogue and some of the language will, but yeah, other than that, it should be pretty straightforward. Also, those of you who joined, you should check out the demo of this game. It is called Ghostlore. It is on Steam right now. This revision is not in the demo, and obviously, right? But you should definitely check out Ghostlore. Give those developers your support. It's a free demo right now, so you literally have nothing to lose, and it's a pretty fun game. I did a video of it, and going from there. Hey, there you go, Cat Dog. It's 10 steps ahead of me. The brains. Cat Dog is the brains of the operation, I will say. Well, at least that's what I hope. If not, I think we're done for. Again, this is a little bit like we get it, right? Like if it doesn't work out, we're already dead. So if this doesn't work out, we kind of. I'm not going to do any more line edits. I'm going to really try to avoid that. But again, that's a little bit verbal. I think we're done for, boss. That's true. That's true. And also, like, done for is a bit of an idiomatic, like, so. Sorry, I'm stopping line edits now. I promise. I'm going to get back to structural edits. This is a problem with having. I guess it's a blessing and the curse of having an OCD person for an editor is that there is literally. It's very difficult for me to turn it off, especially the line edits, even though I know that, hey, a lot of this will probably get reworked in different ways no matter what. So Spirit World. Okay, awesome. So I like this. I think I want this to be a little bit more visceral, a little bit more described. Again, sort of the same note we've had for a lot of these intros. I think we'll just those will probably all end up getting kind of reworked in some way or another. If, the developer wants to move forward with these revisions. So, food for thought there. I think we're done for. Yeah. Good stuff, though. Ooh, I'm a little sleepy. We'll see. I still got some fight left in me, though. Fear not. Okay. So we're in Hell now. So again, Hell is a Western concept. I don't know if that's just in this just for easy reference, if that's actually going to show up in the language. This is the Hell level, consists of broken pieces of seaboard. So it doesn't look like it's getting referenced in the actual world. Okay, so that's good. So it's not getting referenced. I just want to make sure that proper noun is more of like a developer device rather than something that's actually showing up in the game. Okay, good. My fellow council members, ever since we rose to power. Honestly, I think it would be cool because there's that one battle. Like, why didn't they rise to power? During that crazy battle where the hills were painted in blood and the dead rose. I mean, hey, one of the goals, you're nearing the end. Nope, it's an Eastern concept as well. Okay, cool. Thank you. But I think one thing you're always looking to do as a storyteller is to tie as many things together as possible. The more connective tissue you have, the more resilient your story is going to be, and the longer it's going to hold up, honestly. So to some degree saying, hey, they rose to power. We already have a situation where a power transfer happened of this like humongous battle. Why not have these elders? And I'm guessing they're immortal because a lot of the Mogwai's goals is to chase immortality. A lot of these summoners are looking to consume, like the concept of vampirism, right? Taking life. Oh, thank you for the follow, Mikunism. I think I got that right, but thank you for the follow nonetheless. But a lot of these summoners' goals is to chase immortality, so it would make sense that if these folks are in cahoots in some ways with Mogwai summoners, they would be very, very long-lived. And you could even posit that the battle wasn't that long in the past, right? The light and order and safety are the grateful, and well, I guess if they're the light and order and safety, then never mind. I don't know. Let me see. Such has always been the natural order. How could it ever be otherwise? I kind of like this speech. But I thought they already had the device. I thought they already had the device because we're looking for it. There's a ghostly apparition. Oh, I guess so. This is like him, what he did back in town. I think this zone needs to get reworked somehow. It's a little unclear who this apparition is. Besides, I mean, I guess in like video game context, it doesn't matter that much. Maybe it's like on the site. Does this happen in like the equivalent site? So again, we need to have some sort of connection. Does this happen in the same map? Seaport map area as, Zenith inspecting invention. Just need to have a bit more connection that this is a flashback. So if this is a flashback, that's fine. We just need a little bit more. Yeah, it's a ghost of the past. Got it. We just need a little bit more signaling, and maybe that happens in the map, right? Like if we're like where the separator was on that map, I would just say it needs a little bit more signaling that this is a flashback. If I'm just reading the prose alone, I like this. I like this language and this speech. This feels a little too specific. The girl is a symptom of the problem. She's not. But I guess it's okay. This feels a little specific. Nadir is a symptom of their problem, losing power. Okay, if the people cast off their chains. After the player finishes talking to that position, the Mogwai gate appears. Entering the gate teleports the player to the next segment. Okay, so yes, so this is the part that I remember, and I really liked this part. I think this is, yeah. I think it's relevant. And I think the artwork here is fantastic as well. Long ago, there was an island that was terrorized by ferocious swordfish, fishing and sea trade. I would rework some of this. I would just do a line edit of this. Let's just like line edit. Because essentially, like, there's just ways you could phrase this a little bit differently. Like, so again, this is like an example. Just doing some arrangement with the sentences so that like the subject verb combo is more in the center, right? Making sure that the subject of the sentence is the most important thing in the sentence, right? Um, so was made difficult is passive voice, so that's always going to weaken. I wanted to stick around and chat more, but I got to head to sleep. Take care, cat dog. Thanks so much for hanging out, and thanks for sharing Ghostlore. Y'all should download that demo. Cat dog, you should consider downloading the demo, and if you know someone who happens to sometimes, do streams and stuff, you should recommend them to stream it and play it, I would say. Anyways, get some rest, cat dog. Thanks for stopping in. And thanks to all the awesome coffee crew. But yeah, so all this is this is like passive voice here, and I know I'm getting into the weeds. I can't help it. So these types of things, when you're getting into this ancient language, yes, sometimes the passive voice does reflect that tone of like kind of ancient speaking, but there are other devices that you can use that will generally be more effective and will not dilute the sentence's impact quite so much. So it's like using active voice, making sure your subject verb core base clause of your sentence is central, and then stuff like repetition can give us this you know can give us that same sense of like that older register of language, that older tone, right? One day a child suggests an idea to a sultan. Yeah, so I think all of these things, like this core pillar of your story, is solid. I wouldn't change this moment too much. I think this is like the highlight moment, right? And you have this gorgeous art to go with it. Probably if I go through and do a revision, would just rewrite some of the stuff so it's a little bit smoother. Again, after the evil was done, the child's blood flowed and flowed until the entire. So again, this repetition. Oh man, I'm gonna start editing again, but I can't help it. Um, this repetition, um, you can do a lot more with it. Float and float is a little bit of a softer way of developing repetitions. Like you could do is sorry, stumbling over my words a little bit. It is getting pretty late, so I'm sorry if I'm a little tired. But it could be like flowed down the across the hut's tile. It flowed out of the house. It flowed across the hill. It flowed. That's a bad example. I'm obviously a little sleepy, but that could be some ways you could have this kind of expansive use of the word flowed. And then it can build, right? You can build it through the sentence structure and the sentence flow rather than just having to use just only the word as repetition. Mural 5 transports the player to the pre-battle scene. Is a long bridge over a sea of blood. The opposite end is an ungodly amount of aphotic lurkers. Let me look at like the where them aphotic lurkers is. I don't see an image for them in the monster thing, but that's fine. Did you do all the art for this, by the way, Andrew? Because you should feel really proud of yourself. This is all really amazing art. Because I remember, I think you mentioned you were an artist. You had some of those art backgrounds. And if you ever want to do me and my games as solid, we are looking for some. We're probably going to need some art help on our most recent game pretty soon. We're using a bunch of stock art right now, but this is the game we're working on. If you're curious, I'll grab a little bit more water and be right back. Anywho, if I'm sure you have your work cut out for you with this project for quite some time, but we're not going to be getting to that phase in a while. But overall, you should feel really proud of the artwork you've put together. It's pretty fantastic. Um, it's not your time, not yet. I like that a lot. I would just add more of these, honestly. Like, I think that would be pretty cool. Um, put Zenith out of his misery. Okay. I do think so. This is a bit of a me addition, and you can take it or leave it. But for this whole game, the protagonist has been silent, right? And one thing that could be really interesting and poignant is if there is a dialogue bar that happens over the protagonist's character that just says, "Hey, these were your people. How could you?" You know, something like that where we just get a little bit of the protagonist or like the main character's emotional response. It'll probably hit harder because it's the first time we'd ever see a dialogue box coming out of the viewpoint character, the player character. So this is optional, obviously. And then this could be like player character. And then you kick Zenith's butt, and then his head explodes, and then fades to black, and then we're back in Seaport post game. And then we have a few repeatables here. I think these actually should be a little bit deepened, so I'm gonna get busy real soon. I like this that we have some denouement here, like that we're actually like tying back, like, hey, she's back at the institution. Um, at few, well, they see Seaport's one of the haunted countries per square haunted countries. So is it a country or a city? I think it was a city. Um, yeah, what? Um, it's a little confusing. I don't think you'll be running out of things to do anytime soon. So, Ghostlore Andrew, what this tells me is you guys are going to build like a rift system. I hope so, because I feel like being able to like tune your difficulty and get progressively just harder and harder items and harder things is a good way to make a game that's like relatively short and concise feel a little bit longer. So, food for thought there. Oh, you are doing a rift system. Yes. Excellent. I think that's a very smart move. Is that going to be in the early access? But I mean, like, but I wonder if there could be like daily leaderboards, like who cleared it the fastest. If let's say you revisit the old maps and that's like your rift, you can like turn up the difficulty, say, okay, who deleted the most, monsters and the fastest at level 5 or whatever. Okay, cool. You guys are on it. I'm glad because I think you need that. I think that would be really smart, just from a game design perspective. Because you've built so much here, you've built so many monsters, you've built so much content. You want to have a way to have it be consumable. Yeah. Okay. See you around. Thanks for everything. Okay, Master Ghost Hunter. I like this. I like this kind of closure here. Like this closure. But I think there's ways to phrase that a little bit better. Again, I think it's just going to be language and phrasing. Also, I did have a question. Back up here, beaks. I don't know if it's actually called the swordfish's beaks, but this is just a word choice to review. I went through this pretty quick, not like pretty quick, but just like there's not much text here in the ending, so there's not as much to sink one's teeth into. But I do like the end. I like the Ghost Hunter's end. I just do think that this needs just like a dialogue pass, right? Like people have always asked me how I managed to face down nightmares. Again, that's a little bit on the nose, right? Um, this should be kind of like the final handoff, and I can rework this if we go forward with doing more edits, but I think this could involve something like, hey, um, now that you're now that you're the ghost hunter, you understand. And we just have silence. Understand what? You should take a rest, bro. It's late. How I face nightmares daily. Um, that asks how I face nightmares daily. Yeah, scariest monster, like truest evil. Whatever. That could get rephrased. I'm gonna jump forward. She gets to take a rest. It's late. Yeah, yeah. Thanks. I'm actually okay for now. But yeah. So my next steps, I do want to go through really quickly. So yes, how I would rework this. There's different ways to go about that. I think there's a lot of just general cleanup, um, general language, and grammar and phrasing cleanup. Just making things more stylized. So I think there's a few big themes. Rework intros, add discoverable modes that makes more sense of the area of in, and give and deliver lore. And then we'll do like 2 per area, and 2 new per return to seaport. Or like 1 new, maybe. Whatever. That just means there's like 8. In terms of the general ordering, I would reorder the story. Uh, order story around order story changes. So then first we would need a red herring. The chained wraith or something, to be the stand-in. More visibility of the elders, either through dialogue or through optional dialogue. Or like the discoverable notes. And then we would be arranging the story pacing to ensure that each quest goal drives plot forward and leads to another, try fail cycle. And that's essentially one of the big, just general narrative things is like try fail. Character tries something, fails, needs to take another tack. But yeah, those are kind of my main overall notes. I probably could go into more detail about, maybe some particular things I would change or how arranging the story notes. So this is honestly up to you, Andrew, in terms of your next steps. And I can ping you on Discord about this if you have more questions, which is, um, I'm happy to talk through or build like a little bit of an outline of how I would reorder a lot of this stuff to build a deeper tension and a deeper layering to the narrative structure. If you say, hey, Jeff, you're generally aligned with what I'm saying here, and you want me to just go ahead and take a swing at it and essentially deliver a document like this, but revised to have kind of those updates in them, let me know. This isn't a super long project, so I'm happy just to do it to support, developers and what you all are doing. I love isometric RPGs, so I'm always happy to try to like burn a little bit of midnight oil to help that going. But balls in your court there in terms of, hey, I actually have some extra time. I was going to stop at midnight, so I have 20 more minutes. Yeah, whether it's worth it to, you know what? I don't mind doing a little bit extra. Let's see here. But yeah, but essentially that's like the next step is no matter what, I will probably be doing a re-outline of the story structure. If I'm going to continue edits, and whether you want to do approval on that outline or whether you say, hey Jeff, go ahead and execute it and try to like revamp some of this stuff, just let me know. I'm pretty open, happy to help, and I think this is a really cool concept. So it'll be fun. Anyways, overall structural revisions. So essentially, you have a number of different zones. I guess it's F12, right? It's Shift F12. Yeah. So our main zone breakout is intro, Seaport 1, Pulau Hija, Seaport 2, Pulau Kabor, Seaport 3, and then the ruins, K ruins. I mean, this is pretty. I mean, thankfully, it's like a really simple structure, so it's easy to rearrange things within this, right? I'm just going to copy and paste this because I'm getting lazy. Seaport 4. And then we have Pulu Pasir. Yeah, Seaport 5. Pulu Baku. Seaport 6. The hospital. Seaport 7. And this is kind of the woman vignette. This is like daughter. Batu. Seaport 8. And then this is the closing. Seaport, messed up. Underground. Seaport, messed up. Hell and Seaport. Post. So that's your core structure. So a lot of this stuff, I think the intro. So right now we have the Master Ghost Hunter getting kind of, a CST. All right. So we have the Master Ghost Hunter here. I think this should be generally adapted to be more of a changing of the guard, right? Where we get, and then he should be weakened. He is unable because the monsters are stronger. And then here, because we talked to the master first, we should be like, I think it's, the master should be, I think it's caused by X. The lady, I think I forgot, Nadia, or Nadir, excuse me. I keep on thinking Nadia for some reason. She should be, we need to figure out, happening. He goes into Pihija, gets an item, the player, and Seaport 2, the elder, should laugh at, these inventions. We've got it handled. Should be more prideful instead of condescending. Um, Nadir should like show that she doesn't like the elder, but we don't know why. So we're bringing that information further into the story, and then going from there. So Pikabor, this is when we fight. I think this is when we fight the like Omega monster, like the 3 summoners. This is just the Wrath. Um, um, you know, Investigate the Wrath corpse. See what created it. And then we find out that people have been summoning these things. They are more powerful. Or something like that, Like, no wonder they're more powerful. With the Wrath fact. Wait. Like, this is what caused it to be so much stronger that Master couldn't handle it and all these things. Seaport 3, let me remember what that one was currently. That was just that was the congratulations and get to Cathanite. So this would be Nadir. I think this can actually stay relatively similar. Um, get the CTHONIT, I think. I'm not know if I spelling night. I want to build a solution. So then we don't introduce that she has this invention from the very, very beginning. Um, we kind of can hint at it and lead into it a little bit more. I want you know, if I'm gonna finish this, going to build this myself without the elders' support, I'll need your help getting materials. Mm-hmm. And then they get the item from the ruins, Seaport 4. This probably should be another this should be another dialogue between Nadia and the old guy, like the elder. So this probably should be, I think the town council will buy in. Like, the villages around are interested. He should actually get like annoyed here. He gets mad. Does she think I'm doing a bad job? And obviously, this can all get reworked and changed. I'm just doing this kind of quickly as an example. And then, if we say, hey, let's try this. We should be, this should stop. This should stop the wraith and so forth. So we'll be introducing these new concepts pretty early on. So essentially, we have, in terms of acts, we have probably one act to rephrase. It's like, Act 1. Seaport 2 is like Act 2, where we get introduced to the bad guy. And then we kind of go like mission by mission. So for each of these acts, we'll want to have a change of fortune. So something that's new, that's changing the direction and why we're doing certain things. Act 3 can probably be like the Cathanite and the follow-up. And then Act 4, I kind of wish there would be something that happened out in the world. So like, maybe like finds something weird here. And maybe this could be like a note, a note that seems strange. And this would kick into Act 4. And then they would do something about the note. Things are starting to melt down now. And this is like 5, things melting down. With invention moved. And then we have the daughter sequence. And I think overall, like Act 6 is kind of this final one here. Elder Resolution and the Surreal Town. All right, I'm pretty pooped. I hope this was helpful. I know I went through this really fast. I don't know if you're still there, Ghostlore Andrew. I know you're still working and stuff, so like, I hope this hasn't like completely distracted you from your workday. But yeah, this is my basic gut check and how I would restructure some of this. I think I will probably, when I'm not so sleepy, go through and actually like put together like, okay, what is the act structure? How do we break out all these beats across like a series of a stream of events that flows really well? I just got here. Could you repeat it? All right, cool. We're starting from the top. Atanchi just got here. Well, you know what? I recorded a VOD, so all you got to do is plus replay. I think this is actually one worth watching. I don't often do game and narrative design edits on stream, even though I do a lot of narrative design work off stream. Um, so watch the VOD. I think there's a lot of stuff that's worth. I think there's a lot to learn from this project. I think the developer's doing a lot of smart things in terms of using existing forms, stuff like that. And then also, I think there's a lot of good paths forward. So anyways, I am exhausted. It is getting pretty late over here. I'm going to go ahead and pass out. I am, again, my hat's off to the developer for doing such a good job. I've done things too. No, no, no. See, everyone's their own harshest critic as a writer. Go easy on yourself. I think there's a lot of awesome stuff here. And then Ghostlore or Andrew, I can sync up with you on Discord. I'll send you this document, but obviously, I'll probably just my recommendation would be if you and your team are comfortable with it, the next step would probably be to deliver a new narrative map like this, using a lot of the same principles, just adding some new stuff, and then just going forward from there. But again, I want to make sure I have your all's buy-in because I value my time, so I want to make sure that hey, if I'm going to spend time revamping some of this stuff, it's actually going to be useful to you all. And yeah. So anyways, y'all have a great night. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was at least educational, no matter what the next steps are with this particular game project. And I wish you all the very best and a wonderful evening. So cheers, everybody. I'm going to pass out and get some rest, and I'll talk to you all very, very soon. Bye-bye.